Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chaos Stream. We're a little bit late. A, because I'm a mess, but B, the cat actually knocked about a nice third of my coffee all over my desk. So, what a way to start a morning. What a way to start a stream. He's not happy because his paw, yeah, which really I probably shouldn't drink this, but now you know I'm like a horrible person. Anyway, he barely touched the coffee. It mostly just knocked over. Anyway, we're gonna get some work done. Thank you so much to Lainey and Miranda for joining me. This is Lainey and Miranda, but I will also let them introduce themselves. There are links below to their channels. Miranda, you've gotten some subs since
I
last you were
have.
here.
It's very exciting.
And Lainey,
Yeah.
you're in your new fancy apartment.
I am.
Ugh, the vibes. That last vlog was so good. Like just showing everything. I was obsessed.
So introduce yourselves. It's basically that you're Lainey and Miranda, but go ahead so that I stop rambling.
Okay. Well, I'm Lainey, and I have the channel Ginger Reads Lainey, which is why I put it right there so you can see. And I am currently about to start writing a new project for this stream. I'm currently on submission with my YA fantasy romance, and that's pretty much it. Sub sucks. It's
Yeah,
long.
really good. Okay,
And it's
Lainey.
slow.
But worth it. I'm Miranda. I don't have my channel in the name thing because, maybe I would have thought of that before. But anyway.
It's linked below. You're fine.
Yeah, it'll be fine. The channel name's not even that good. It's because I didn't want to pick a pen name. It's a whole thing. Anyway.
This is the worst channel name ever, but I'm still here.
No, you're Ginger and you read and your name is Lady. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyways, today I'm going to be working on rereading my YA thriller that I finished last weekend editing. Did a vlog all about that, but now I'm done and now I'm rereading it before I send it to other people to read to make sure it's like not that terrible. Just catch anything, just in case.
And don't let me forget, remember I have a CP hookup for you.
You go. Exciting.
Yeah, that's what I do. I'm like a puppet master behind the scenes with strings. I'm like, can I connect you?
I love that. Look, I need all the help I can get. It's it's true. And I feel like on AuthorTube too, so many people are doing like fantasy and I just don't write fantasy, don't read fantasy, so I don't know, maybe it's harder, maybe it's just a me thing, I don't know.
Yeah, finding good thriller betas, that can be a challenge.
Yeah.
So we know you're working on your thriller, which you're reading over, and you said on the last stream it's like boarding school vibes, which we love. Lainey, I know your pitch, but tell everyone what you're working on because it's very exciting.
Oh, so I'm going to be working on a book that I'm kind of comping as like the Kennedys, which is like my favorite American family. The Kennedys meets Bridgerton, but without like a social season, it's a political season, and there's magic.
I just love that. Again, in your vlog, I was like, oh my god, that sounds so good.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And similar to Miranda, I am working on my thriller. It's so hard now not to use the new title because since last we spoke, it has a new title. It's so funny because it came up in the last live stream I did when I was revising, so I'm still revising. But I'm actually really close to the end, and I don't think there are any major rewrites until like the end. My editor wants me to edit on a different button, so I'm mostly reading. But yeah, it was Murder She Texted, and we can still continue to refer to it as that because I'm not announcing a new title until like my editor wants to wait for both spooky season, so this fall, slash we don't think it's going to change, but basically since it's behind the scenes stuff, my cover is being worked on as we speak, which is so exciting. They're working on ideas and comps, and my editor said I'll actually get to like see early stuff in a couple of weeks, which so excited. But she says like double, triple in case they want to like do the cover comps with this new title and make sure the entire sales and marketing team like 100% thumbs ups it before we make it public. So 2 reasons we're waiting. And then like so just like timeline wise though, I will like see some stuff for my cover in a couple of weeks, but y'all won't see Jack until next like March. It's like publishing timelines. And I'm really terrible at keeping secrets, and so that's gonna hurt me like so much. Anyway, so you're just like, get prepared. I'm gonna be teasing a cover for the next 6 months like a horrible person. And Miranda, did I tell you the new title?
You have not, so
I told
I'm
Lainey.
excited to
Sorry,
find out.
you're the only one who doesn't know. I'm so
I like it though because that way I won't accidentally say it. So
that's what I was just thinking.
Willing,
I'm like, damn, I can't say
it. Tell you on the DL, but maybe now I won't.
No, I won't. I promise. But just in case.
So before we jump in, and I figure like last time, we'll kind of start slow, though this time I won't accidentally do a 20-minute timer. When I say we're doing a 15-minute timer, we will actually do a 15-minute timer, and then we'll work our way up. My aim is like, I'd love to get at least an hour and change of sprinting in, maybe like an hour and a half if I can shut up and do longer sprints. And so if you're tuning in live and you're new, like this isn't like I'll chat if you allow me, so don't let me. As opposed to a regular chatty discussion live, this is a productivity live, which means we will be taking frequent breaks. Like, don't let me, we're at 6 minutes, so just always watch me with talking.
I see Violet's in the chat. That's her job. Violet's always the one like, it's time to sprint.
Yes. This is for anything you need to work on. You can work on writing projects, whether that's drafting, whether that's revising. It could be brainstorming, outlining, or just you're home and you are vacuuming or doing dishes. We are doing things together on this wonderful Saturday morning for Miranda and I, and afternoon for Lainey. But first, like, just because I saw this in the chat, what were your thoughts on Lindsay Ellis's latest video? It was great. And I commented, and she commented back, and apparently has watched my videos, and I might have died inside. No, I mean, I love what she's doing, because I think we've seen so many, not like regular author tubers, because I think we're pretty used to this, but when you see like a YouTuber who gets a book that comes out, they're far more likely to sugarcoat and just talk excitedly about this wonderful thing, because it is a wonderful thing. But like Lindsay is like me, she's keeping it real, like spiritual sisters. Like, I love it. Probably the biggest one, if I could make a video about this, I would, but y'all will have to settle for a tease in a live stream. When she said like in publishing, like people are jealous, like really jealous bitches. I'm like, where's the lie though? But it's not really something that can be talked about. She is correct. And especially when you compare it to YouTube, concur. Like the levels of petty jealousy in publishing are off the charts. It's interesting. Like, I mean, I feel like I've skirted around that topic in my videos before, but that was the one I was most tempted to respond to, and I was like, but I can't.
I just added this to my watch later. I haven't seen it yet.
Yes, it was good. It's like, it was. I like how like sobering it is. Like me, she's got such a huge audience, and it's good that they would watch and realize, oh, it's not just like she's got a Made in the Shade because she's got 1 million subscribers and got a book deal done. There's so much, like, the publishing is not a walk in the park for anyone, and there's so much stuff that comes with it. And y'all know my philosophy. I would rather know all the bad stuff ahead of time if I can. And if you can't handle hearing the bad stuff, you're gonna struggle in publishing. Like if you literally can't handle just hearing it, I'm like, oh, wait till you go through it. It's a lot. But I love it. I know, Emily, right? I was like, I lost my mind. Oh gosh. See, so I fangirl people too. Okay, I'm doing that thing where I'm talking too much. We are gonna do a sprint. Y'all say something while I queue up this timer.
Someone asked where I got my glasses. I got them from Zimph. They are blue light blockers, so I'm like wearing my actual contacts while I wear them.
Info.
Yep. I don't know if the code still works, but they did send me these glasses for free, so I feel like I should say that, but I wear them every day. So
Nice.
when I'm sitting in front of my computer.
Okay. All right, 15 minutes. We're gonna get it done. I took yesterday off, so I gotta get back in the flow. I'm at the climax, like I'm at like the killer reveal part of the book, which is very exciting. All right, so for how long do we sprint? The first one is going to be 15 minutes, and then we will escalate. The next one will be 20, and then we'll probably do a 30 after that. It's going to be super, super great. Whew, okay. I'm sharing my screen.
Gotta remember to mute myself.
And is it confirmed? Do we have the beachy timers again? Yes, love it.
Yes, beachy timers is where it's at. I don't know, they're relaxing. And when we go into fall, we'll find some fall vibe timers. So, okay, let's do this. All right, we good? And go. We did it. Yay. How did we do?
I don't know what order to go in. I was just reading. I think I got through like 10 pages, but I'm reading on like my iBooks app, so what even is a page, you know? Just an arbitrary number based on how big I have the text. But anyway, 10 pages. I was in the like first brush with authority phase of things. Yeah, got through it.
Nice.
And I read over my outline real quick just to get back into that headspace. And it's hard because when you're first starting a new chapter, it's like you can fix it. Obviously, like that's you'll always be fixing your first chapter. But I still want to like get the atmosphere right, and especially like the voice right, because this is like the first time I've written a new character. It's not like the one I'm out on sub with, so I want to make sure like the voices are different, and I'm just like, how does she think, and like stuff like that. So I'll just have to see when I start writing, I guess.
I'm the same way. First chapters are really important to me, and I think that's actually why mine usually don't change, because exactly, it's like it has to be right. Everything else can change, but for me at least, like first chapters, because it's like when I really nail down what the voice is. Yeah, I read a little, and I hit a point where my editor has a note that I don't know what to do with, so it was a perfect time to stop. I was like, well, that's great. Hope Bananas has a good question here. Do you ever have that issue where you try to start writing, but you're far enough into the story that you can't just dive back in? Stuck rereading. Yeah, that's a mood.
I have kind of a hack for this, though.
Ooh.
Something that I often do, especially if I'm just like purely drafting, not revising at all, is like I never stop at the end of a chapter or something. And this is something that I've learned because I've stopped at a point and been like, oh yeah, I'll remember like where I want to pick up after this. I always like leave myself a little note of like at least the first next thing to happen, because it's so much easier when you're like still in that headspace from drafting. So I like to leave myself a little note that's like, here's the next thing that you're gonna do, or like any of my other ideas, just so that like I can read that over and then quickly get back into it the next time.
I like that. Yeah. I'll sometimes stop, like not in the middle of a scene, but like I make sure there's a cookie for the next writing session where it's like same thing. I'll do like bullet pointed lists where I'm like, okay, so next, yeah. But sometimes you just gotta get stuck rereading. Like sometimes that really is what you have to do. It depends, but it does kind of suck.
I saw Allie say she does that too, but stops in the middle of a sentence. It's not a level that I get to, because I'd be like, where was I going with that sentence?
But I would lose my train of thought.
I'd be editing and I'd find that sentence and be like, I just never finished it. Okay.
Yep.
But I like that.
Everyone's doing words. We love to see it. Sorry, just reading. Well, before we dive back into another sprint, not to give myself permission to talk, maybe we can chat for a little interim. Does anyone have any like questions or other things they want us to talk about? Writing hacks, tips?
I feel like I just gave up like the only one that I have. But yeah.
Layla just said that she treats writing sessions like a TV show where she has an up next tab and read everything that will that's really good. I like that.
I love that. Write yourself a trailer.
Oh, here we are. Editing tips. I think I'm just rewriting at this point, not sure if I like it or not. Sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. The hard part is knowing like when you're editing, when is the time to scrap and rewrite? Because sometimes like truly it's annoying as heck, but it comes out better. It's better when you rewrite it and you're like, well, I'm mad that I have to do this work and it pays off. Like, at least that's how I feel when Though in fairness, I think maybe it's a little different when it's self-directed. It is different when it's self-directed versus like, so what I mean is like my editor will give me a note and I will literally spend 20 minutes mentally twisting myself into a pretzel of like, how can I get around not doing this? Cause I don't want to, I'm mad. And then I'll give in and I'll do the thing she wants and I'll rewrite. And I'm like, well, that worked. Damn it. So meaning sometimes rewriting is the thing you have to do. Not sure if I like it or not. Definitely let it sit. I think it's really hard to judge fresh writing in the moment. Let it sit for at least 24 hours and then go back and read it. But like, yeah, different sections of your book will call for different kinds of editing. Sometimes it's rewriting, sometimes it's just cleaning up and tweaking, working on targeted sections. Do you guys have editing tips? I feel like I'm being very vague.
Well, I'm like at the point where I'm like rewriting and I'm like kind of like I'm not sure if I like it or not, or I don't know if it's like improving or I'm just making it different. I usually bring in CPs at that point. I'm like,
Yeah, true.
I need your help with this. Tell me what your honest thoughts are, especially ones that I've read it in the past.
Yeah.
Because then they'll see the changes that you made and let you know if you're on the right path or not, or if they have any insight or could help you brainstorm a solution to a problem that you have with the scene or the plot line or anything.
Yeah, that's
But
like
actually,
you're like, yeah, other people are going to have different eyes for it. So
yeah.
if you can, that's a good time to bring them in. But I think like just getting as much distance from it is like going to be helpful if you can to actually evaluate like if this is better or not. And maybe that's a matter of like having two versions in your document still and being able to like look at them side by side and be like, which one do I actually like more? Maybe like comparing it after the fact, so then you know. But then you're still doing the work. I don't know.
Sometimes it's also just when I'm really feeling in the weeds, like Lainey said, sometimes, yeah, it's sending it to someone who's already read the original so they have context. I do that, but I'll bring in fresh readers, though I will say mostly that helps with thrillers. I didn't have to do that as much when I was writing sci-fi retellings because I wasn't as seriously concerned that I was messing it up. But with thrillers, I find it actually really essential. Like, because one little change will completely change the reading experience in terms of tension building and red herrings. And so I'll just give it to a new person. But the other thing, I always reach a point in my revision where I have to load the book on my Kindle, and that's very important for me. It could be printing it out if that's how you kind of, yes, exactly. If that's how you kind of, it depends on what gets your brain firing in terms of reading it like a real book. I always reach a point where I can't see the forest for the trees. And I start at the beginning of the book and I read it on my Kindle like a real book. And I'll be able to spot things and usually like tell if what I'm doing is actually working. And actually on this revision, that's what really helped me on Act 1, which I've had consistent pacing issues with. It was my reread a couple weeks ago. And I realized oh, I have to cut this entire chapter I actually really like. But reading it back, I figured out what the problem was. And it was literally just one chapter sitting there that was messing up my character arc for a specific character. Because I had them doing something that was really fun to write, don't get me wrong, but made them seem really inconsistent as a character. And and I realized, aha, the other rewrites worked, but I'm trying to hold on to this thing, throw in the garbage. So I did. It's very sad. And of course, ironically, beta reader, at least one beta reader was like, I loved this chapter. I was like, it's dead. It's like, bye, kill your darlings. So that can help, like reading it like a book in whatever format it is that does that. Because at least for me, I view my work very differently when I'm in Microsoft Word or Scrivener than when it's on my Kindle and we're treating it like any other book. So
And that can be as simple as just like changing the font, even.
Yeah,
just like seeing
there are
it in a
lots of
different
different
way.
That's a good writing hack.
Comic Sans?
I mean, that hack worked. I will say I haven't had to use it of late. I haven't used it on this book at all for the most part, but that legit helped on the IVs. It's a psychological trick. It's whatever it is that's going to get you to work. So, but it works.
I've never done the Comic Sans thing yet.
It's worth a try, but only if like you're feeling stuck. Like if what you're doing is working, I just found it really helpful on the IVs to like force my brain to like detach. I don't know. It was a good trick at the time.
I mean, when you're writing in like Times New Roman, it almost gives you this block where you feel like everything needs to be like good. And then when you're writing in Comic Sans, if you're at least just kind of getting your first draft out, like it helps because you definitely detach from it a little bit and you're like, this can be fixed later.
Yeah.
Just like for momentum purely.
Do we have other random writing hacks? Those are kind of hard to pull out of your butt unprompted, but who knows?
I saw someone have a question about like writing the middle of a mystery / thriller, and I was like,
you mean the worst part?
Question.
Yeah. The worst part.
Any tips on making the middle of a thriller engaging? I feel like my middle isn't engaging. What I kind of figured out for mine was like everything that they're finding out has to be like for a reason. Because usually the middle is going to be kind of like the investigation part, and it can be a red herring, but things can't come out of nowhere. And like making sure that everything ladders back and there's a reason for everything, like that's going to make it more engaging. And having fun set pieces helps too.
I was about to say that because that's especially in the fun and games, but also building up to the midpoint. I think it helps if you make sure that your midpoint's a little splashy, even if it's not like the biggest reveal. A strong set piece can help, but especially before that, just so it's sometimes it's even taking. I can give an example from this new book actually that I had to do that, of course, caused another problem, but that's a later problem. I've already told my editor, and like she gave me permission. She was like, I know I created a problem for you by giving you this note. We can deal with the problem it created later. And have I done that? Yes. I had a scene where three characters were sitting in a room, like they were at someone's house. They were on the bed looking at a murder board, because I love a murder board, discussing suspects and discussing the timeline. And then they went to a party, because I have a party. And my editor was like, this is just, it's a little inert, like they, and one of those things, because I have the character she's in the police station for a reason, but she peeks at their board to get information. And there was one like thing on there, and my editor was like, it'd be way more fun and better, and it would help bond the characters, because I've got like a Scooby Gang feel in terms of like there's lots of different people helping solve this murder. There's a lot of found family in this book. If instead of sitting around and talking about this thing, if they found this thing, if they went to the place and they discovered this clue that is really creepy. And she was right. She was very right. And I rewrote it, and it's way more engaging, because instead of sitting around talking about clues the police found, they're sneaking into a place where they're not supposed to be, like ducking under police tape, and they're finding a clue that leads my character to the next person, someone else she has to talk to, because anyway, it's a whole thing. And that's an example. It's recasting scenes that already exist to be more exciting and active. I have another example, this all Act 2's mess, where similarly I had a character find out, I guess this is all great examples of passivity that you can rewrite. I have a small town secrets trope where she has a source at the police. It's a teen, so it's the daughter of the sheriff. And she gets information about someone's alibi from that person in the previous version. Instead, I rewrote it to have my character sneak in to the place where the police interview is taking place, because it's at school, and listen in. That's just so much better. It's active. It's exciting. She could be caught. So it increases the tension and stakes, and it's the fun and games. So, but it's like a forest for the trees thing. If my editor hadn't had a note on that chapter about something else, Well, her note was, I think she's relying on the police too much. And I was like, but the trope. And my way of actually keeping that was to do it better. Not to get rid of it, but to do it better. That's a great example of you don't have to do every note your editor says. Just fix it. You manipulate them into doing it the way you want. Alexa done, 2021.
That was, I mean, that's like even for me, like bringing up so many thoughts, and I'm like, oh god, I need to change everything. I'm not going to, but
Don't do everything, but
But-
I'd have to think a little bit about it, but I'm sure I did the same kind of stuff with the Ivies, and that's what's so I love revision. So don't pressure yourself on drafting, honestly, to do any of this amazingly or perfectly. Like, fix it later. Like, you don't obviously want to rewrite every single beat of Act Two, but if you just do your best when you're drafting and nail like 50% of it, you can fix the other 50% later. And it's also amazing how just changing one chapter can make such a difference. So that chapter that I rewrote where she's sneaking into the library to listen to the police interview, it's one chapter, but it's in a critical part of Act Two. I mean, we'll see what my editor says. I'm pretty sure I fixed the problem. I think it works because it just makes it so much more exciting. Oh, I have another example of me failing if anyone wants it.
Violet's requesting a sprint.
But I want to hear about Alexa failing.
Well, how about that's the cookie?
Yeah,
When
we
come
can
back from
save
this
it.
sprint, I will tell you another way in which I failed in Act Two and how I fixed it.
Love it.
Constantly failing. That's me.
That was such
Oh,
a
and
good
everyone has so
question,
many
by the
good
way.
questions. So we'll have a lot
I
to do when
know.
we come back. Okay, we're gonna do 20 minutes. Thank you for keeping up with the chat, Lainey. All right, let's do this, and then I'll tell you how I failed.
I like suspense even on the stream.
We did it. I did well. How did everyone else do? Like I got a bit further in my reading and I kind of firing on all cylinders in terms of jumping back in my manuscript and planting some clues better. Y'all, yeah, mute. You're all on mute.
Come on.
I wrote 100 words. That's it. Yeah, I kept
That's
I felt like I kept like false starting where I'm like, oh, I don't like that sentence. So I backed it up and started writing something new. So I think I finally have a flow going. So I'm excited.
good.
Did you leave yourself a note about the next thing you want to say?
I did not.
Okay.
Actually,
It'll be fast enough. You'll be fine.
I think I stopped mid sentence too. I did. I was
Amazing.
all I have is like SH. I don't know what word I was trying to write, but then I heard you start talking and I'm like, crap, gotta go back.
That's funny. Got through more pages. Broke into 2. We love it.
Yeah,
I don't
good.
know.
Yeah, no, I also kind of left off like it ended just as I was realizing I need to jump back to a previous scene just to plant like the tiniest little things so that my character like I need her to know definitively that a clue is a clue, and I was like, you got to plant some there's room for doubt unless you do XYZ. So, that's good. That'll encourage me to actually sprint promptly next time because now I know that I have something to do. Before I say the other way that I messed up and fixed my act 2, I just wanted to throw this on the screen just so I can be salty. Is it possible to have a manuscript that's written so good that editing is not needed? No, that is not possible. Because meaning, uh, so let's assume that the spelling, grammar, copy, editing wise, that it's allegedly perfect. It'll need dev edits. Like no first draft doesn't need some form of dev editing, and I think that I know this question was asked in good faith, and yes, I caught the grammar thing, but I think that it's a lot of people confuse that level of editing, like grammar and usage, and like making sure like it's clean, and dev editing. And even if something can be really really clean and need dev edits, and I think that's where some people kind of fall on their faces in terms of like they don't do the work that needs to be done, um, and maybe they don't realize that like because dev editing's hard. It's really freaking hard.
Someone
Um,
just asked, what is dev editing?
Thank you. Developmental editing. So that's when you're editing the content. It's not you're not focusing too much on like, oh, that line sounds bad or whatnot. It's like what I've all these instances of me messing up my act 2 that we're talking about. That's dev editing. I'm not hyper focusing on how it sounds, though. I mean, I when I rewrite, I always try to not be garbage because then I'm just creating extra work for myself. But it's taking content of your book, or it could be pacing. So like me dumping that, so that was the second thing I dumped in act 1. I ended up dumping multiple chapters from my original act 1 for pacing. That's developmental editing. It's things that impact the reading experience, that are story related, character related, and not about the minutia of like the words on the page, which is a different kind of editing. And when you work with a traditional publisher, of course, in self publishing, you can work with multiple editors who perform these different functions as well, and you should, I believe. But at TradPub specifically, the editor you sell your book to does developmental editing with you. They're all about the content of the book, how the story works and how it moves, how it develops. Plus line editing, editors that they do your first line edit, that is when you get to dig into like the length of your sentences or like the meaning of something, word choice. And then there's a whole separate department and people who copy edit your manuscript and proofread your manuscript and make it clean and hopefully perfect. So there's always stupid typos that get through. I love dev editing though. I really do. It's a lot of fun. For me, because that's what takes the pressure off drafting. That it doesn't have to be perfect. And I love that. Like, oh, thank God. So the other way I messed up, just so you know, just for funsies, because this helps like this is obviously very thriller specific, but I hope these examples help with anyone who's revising, especially a muddled middle. I had another example where, I mean, it was fine the first way. I had my character go to the newspaper archive. I love a newspaper archive. I'm here for it, to look up like articles to get information about a 50-year-old murder. And it worked, but my editor gave me a separate note. Well, kind of. The point is, I actually realized I dropped a red herring plot. I had a red herring that my character didn't actually follow up on in Act 2 in any meaningful way. Like, she heard from someone else that they might be doing XYZ instead of investigating problems. And I was like, this beat is missing. If she doesn't actually actively look into this person, that's dumb. And I had to figure out how the heck to make it work. Anyway, so I took what was originally reading through newspaper articles, and I changed it to, the town has a town archive / museum, and now she's gleaning the same information from a museum display, and it's kind of like a show versus tell kind of thing, because I can instead have her observing and experiencing something rather than reading something. And it gave me something to describe, and it's a little more interesting than looking at newspapers on a computer screen. She's at a museum looking at a display, watching archival footage in a screening room. Like, that's a lot more fun. And I was able to then also have her overhear an argument involving the person I needed her to actually do something about, because it was passive. And so I find that very often we'll take shortcuts when we draft, which is fine, to move things along. Narration versus dramatization. It's, just getting something on the page, saying it happened, having them find information out in a passive way. And developmental editing, and what you can do to make it more engaging, is kicking yourself in the butt. You don't have to change every single instance, because sometimes you find something out by someone telling you something. But if you change enough, you keep your middle way more engaging, I hope. But so that was another chapter I threw out and completely rewrote, and I think it's much better, and it's a little creepier. So I love it. I love editing. Sorry, there were a ton of questions and a ton of discussion while we were sprinting.
Yeah.
Y'all want to say something while I scroll?
I'm scrolling
Here,
too.
I'll put
I
this
think we
on.
were all scrolling.
Tips on improving prose.
I know what Alexa's gonna say.
Do you?
I think I do. I think it's read.
Well, actually, that is a really good answer. I'm broken record, but that is one thing that I do. I'm sure you guys are the same. And something I do when I come across a phrase that really sparks for me, or a description in a book I'm reading, I literally have a file on my phone. For me, it's the Keep app on Android, but on a iPhone, it would be the Notes app. And it's just a running list of, like, it's mostly like, it sometimes it's like a verb that someone uses where I'm like, oh, that's a sexy verb, and I'll write it down. Or a lot of it is descriptions of how things feel, or a very specific like way that something looks. And of course the key is like, you never want to copy or crib off of someone else's writing, but I have this file as like an inspiration file of like wordage. And sometimes that really helps me improve my prose, because when I know that I have to like fix something that's like plotting telling, I might read one of those sexy phrases or sentences and like vibe on their like vibe, and just try to rewrite my sentences so that they're better. But it's not easy. I wouldn't say prose is my strong suit personally.
Do you find that your prose has improved since having like a professional edit your work, like someone do your line editing and stuff? Does that make you better too?
It definitely makes me better. I don't know if it's explicitly, it's one of those things where like I know it's happening, but I can't like directly trace it, if that makes sense. Like, yes, but it's not like there was has been any specific instance of like my editor teaching me better prose. So I will say sometimes she suggests alternate lines that are so good where I'm like, put me to shame. Why aren't you the writer? Because that's really good. And sometimes I'll just use her rewrite and I'll like put a note. I'm like, I like the way you said it. Thanks. And as long as she's okay with that and she shames me and I go, maybe I'm a horrible writer. But that's normal, right?
I also had my agent, she wrote a line to like, she like made my line better. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to use that. So I'm like, how did you like write that so much better than what I was thinking in my head?
Yeah. But I like but generally just the process of working with professional editors multiple times now I do think it's improved my prose. Um, just because I've had to really try harder. That sounds weird. Line editing has really helped though, because like even just stuff like word choice and like having to actually take myself to task on echoes has really helped. Especially because that like they'll ding you on repetitive phrasing, and I definitely have a problem with repetitive phrasing. I generally I just have wells that I return to over and over again. Um, it's a weird, slow process. I hope I've improved prose wise. I think I have, but who knows? I don't know. It's fine.
I also feel like I've watched videos and stuff of people like going through and line editing their work, and I find that so helpful to see the things that they like call themselves on, because it's even that is more helpful than just like reading something, because you don't see what it was in the beginning. I might go back in my history and try and like figure out. I don't remember this girl's exact like channel name, but I watched one of her videos and it was very helpful, and I was like, oh my god, helps so much. Give me 1 second.
That is also why. Like, oh, go ahead, Lainey. Sorry.
I was just thinking that a lot of like how to improve prose for me, I feel like just naturally happens over time the more you write, because it's kind of just something where I'm like, I don't think I'm great at like I'm not the best at prose, but I know I'm considerably better at it than I was 5 years ago. And I think that was just from continuing to write for the past 5 years. I think I naturally improved. I don't think there was like something I specifically did that helped me improve it besides the practice of writing, I guess.
That's how I feel as well. And also, yeah, it really is like a stock answer, but reading really has helped me with that as well. And I mean, everyone learns differently, that said, like, but for me personally, ingesting a ton of other people's actually superior prose, it like, that's what inspires me to like at least try harder. And yet I still am pretty convinced that I'm garbage, but every once in a while, like I'll read a line, I'm like, you did okay.
Are there any authors that you would suggest that you often, have that inspiration with?
Well, in YA with thrillers, Kara Thomas, honestly. I know that I'm like a really shameless fangirl, but especially like I remember in the past, there were just lines like and feelings that she would evoke in some of her YA thrillers where I was like, masterclass that made me try a little harder. Michelle Campbell is another one. She's one where multiple times when I've been reading her books, so she's adult thrillers, I've put little lines in that notes file from her books. That was a good one. Riley Sager, I feel like there've been a few cases where I just loved the way he expressed something and it like stuck in my mind. Ruth Ware, it's the ones that I really really like. And so in fairness, for me specifically, because I love thrillers and I write thrillers, what really will stand out to me is when they describe a feeling really really well, especially if that feeling relates to tension or suspense, because that's what I want to get better at. For people writing in other genres, it might be someone who like kills it with world building description or like just describes the character perfectly. But for me, I'm always looking for writers who, especially in first person, are really good at evoking a feeling, because that's what I always hope to get better at. So,
makes sense.
Yeah, I'm sure there are more.
The girl who I was talking about, her channel is Chris MF, which is KRISMF. I recently found her channel. Her videos are great. She does not have enough subscribers, so shout out to her. Nice. She has some videos line editing her stuff, and I found it so helpful to see.
When we're done streaming, put that in a comment. I'll pin it.
Sure. Yeah.
I agree that can help, and I know that I need to do another first pages critique, but the reason I haven't is honestly like it takes so much prep work, and I've been like zero bandwidth lately. Like when I'm actively working on my books, I'm just useless. But I feel like those are hopefully helpful to people when I did them last year. Because it is true, like that's another way that you can improve your prose. If you get really good CPs who are good at line editing you and they'll point things out, you can get better via their suggestions. So it's the same principle as working with an editor. If you work with one who's good at like making suggestions, slowly but surely you'll learn.
Looking for another comment.
Yeah, I know there's more, and then we'll do another sprint because I'm keyed up and jazzed in the best possible way. Let's do it. Here's a question about endings. Just throw this up. Do you all plan your endings beforehand, or let it come to you as the story goes along?
I actually just talked about this in my last vlog. So for me, my endings are not planned. I just need to know, like, at least like in the sense that I don't know where the characters will be. I don't know what the setting looks like. I don't know what the situation is of how it's ending, but I do need to know the character's emotional arc ending. So like with the book that I just went on a sub with, her emotional arc has always remained the same. She's always ended emotionally in the same place that she has in all my drafts. But the situation around that, so the setting, the characters that are in the scene, who she's having a conversation with, that has been vastly changed over the many drafts that I did for it. So yeah, I started getting an idea of like where it needs to end.
Yeah.
When you're writing, like maybe the third act or something, but always know the emotional ending for me.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm a big outliner, so I always think I have an ending. I
Get
have
out of here,
never
Miranda.
actually stuck with the ending that I planned, which is interesting. Like, I always have something that I'm going towards, and then I get there and I'm like, no, this doesn't quite work. I need to change it in this way. And that helps me. So I kind of know where I'm going, but it's often ends up needing to be different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm on record that I always stop right before the end, go back to the beginning and start revising. So, similar to Lainey, I know the emotional journey, and I always know my climax set pieces. So for the most part, so I know what those endings are, and I know the emotional endings. But yeah, the literal ending, that is an editing process for me. In fact, very close to it right now. I have to figure out the ending because I have to send this to my editor. Pray for me. It'll be fun. I literally sent her the full first draft of this book without an ending. And I told her that. I was like, it technically ends, but doesn't end. Have fun. She was aware, so it's cool. That doesn't work with every editor, by the way, but like my editor's kind of chill, which I like. She deals with me. It's great.
I saw another question that was about, like, do you have playlists and mood boards and stuff? And I think Lainey has the same answer as I do. Yes, all the mood boards, all the playlists. Trying to catch a vibe always for my books.
Mm-hmm. Vibes, aesthetics. I'm a Libra, so of course. Yeah, I do too.
Yes. Though, what's so weird about this one, Murder She Texted, I didn't do my normal Pinteresting on this one so much as I have in the past. And part of it is like I have a very specific mood in mind for it, and I have visual images, and I even know where they come from, but I've struggled to find pins for them. So I've just like tried to find the right pins and abandoned that board more than once. But I do have a playlist. And like the one for this one is fun. And generally when I do thrillers, all my thriller playlists, like there's crossover on some of them, it's like moody, nice moody music. Like it's got to be like a little like, And then this one, I reference two pop songs in it, like classic pop songs. So of course they're on the playlist, which is really fun. Yeah. And I mean, it's not a secret. My character is named Cecilia, and someone makes a Simon and Garfunkel reference at her, which I find amusing because I'm secretly a grandfather in a younger body, like a grandpa. And then same thing, Sweet Caroline is important to the murder. So got some Neil Diamond in there. The homecoming dance, there has to be music.
True.
No, I already know the trailer for this if it's ever made into a TV show or movie. It's like a slow, creepy remake version of Sweet Caroline played over moody images, like all those like
Love that.
horror trailers. That's the trailer.
I like that you have a vibe already.
Yeah, it's like fucked up Sweet Caroline.
I like this comment from Josh saying they have candles where the scent matches the atmosphere as closely. And I was like, wow,
That
that's
helps
really.
too.
I don't do that, but I love that.
I have candles too, but I just kind of go off of the season. So like during the fall, I'll just burn fall candles.
Hold on, I'm catching up on the chat and seeing some stupid comments. All right, we should probably jump into another sprint. I feel like this is a sign, but I also love scrolling the chat and I'm still so behind. Did you guys see anything else you want to talk about, or should we just like do a sprint?
We can do a sprint.
Yeah.
It's funny catching up and seeing someone like, why are we doing silent time? We're sprinting! Productivity!
Right. It's funny. I like forget like this is such a normal thing to me. Like I'm always
but if you come in not knowing, you're like,
I know.
What is the
like, what is this? They're live, but they're not talking.
How entertaining watching people like look down.
You're not supposed to be entertained. You're supposed to be doing your own thing. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna redo the 20-minute. Let's do 20 minutes again because I already have it up and I'm lazy.
Perfect.
Screen. All right, let's do it. Oh, whoops! I left a comment on the screen. Yay. We did it. How'd it go?
All good for me.
Oh, I should probably stop sharing the screen.
No disasters.
That's
all we
good.
hope for. I'm only letting myself make notes of edits if they'll take me like less than 5 seconds to change. So if it's just like a quick little like word choice thing or a typo I find, like that's what I make a note of. Anything else, I'm like, next time.
You're on mute, Lainey.
I just got an email from my agent, and she got me back my notes from my outline. So I was like going halfway through those, and I was like,
good timing.
What does it say about me if my agent has like a better idea for a certain world building aspect than myself?
Dude, I get great suggestions from my editor all the time, so don't fight it.
She suggested this really cool thing about the magic system. I'm like, oh, I do really, really like that. I don't think I would have ever come up with that on my own. So,
no, it's good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm right in the middle of the killer monologue, and I literally sent my editor a first draft of this, which is hilarious, and I'm flagging like poor word choice, and well, because when I'm really in the like mode, I go to those crutch words. I'm literally flagging it like, how many times do I use the word scoff in this manuscript? How do I fix this? Snapping as a response is another problem I have. And I'm trying to like, I have a lot of rapid fire dialogue, and I'm trying to like add some stuff between that like doesn't drag pacing but makes it interesting. So that's what I'm working on right now. So the good news is, as much as I want to talk, I'm also down for another sprint, maybe in like 10 minutes, because I'm grooving. But briefly, I actually had like kind of a long form question here, but I think it's interesting. Meaning there's multiple. So, and if you hear that in the background, that is my kittens running around and tackling each other. So I won't read all of this, but in the querying trenches, had a few full requests and rejections on this manuscript, working on a new book that's getting a lot of attention, and agents are saying, who have like passed on the previous manuscript, saying like send them something new. Even though they're great agents, I want someone who will take on both of my book babies. Any advice on what to do? Should I hold out for an agent for my current book on sub, or should I accept rep for the new one, even if the agent wouldn't rep my first book baby? Being frank, the way the industry is right now, I guess I assume everyone's YA. You might not be YA, but even if you aren't YA, but especially if you are, now is not the time to look any gift horse in the mouth. You have to move forward with strong material that's going to get you representation, that's going to sell, and worry about another book baby later. Sometimes it can definitely end up that you can salvage it later. Like it can make a great option book. It can make a great, let's say you go on submission and someone wants to buy the book that's working. You can pitch that one as the second book in a 2-book contract. It doesn't have to be dead. And also there are cases like, let's say you get an offer from a dream agent on this new material, but you know that they passed on the last one. It might be a situation where they pass on the last one because they knew that they couldn't sell it, but it still might be something you could work with them on. You could ask about that on an offer call. But honestly, as well, sometimes the best thing is moving forward from a book. And I'm not saying emotionally you have to do that right now, mind you. But 2 years from now, you might feel completely different about it, even if it's your book baby. And I also had in the back of my head my second book that didn't go anywhere with queries. And I did talk to my agent about it once I was agented, once I told a book. And, she was just really like frank that it really wasn't going to work for the market. And it's so hilarious because now this is years and years and years later, I've so completely emotionally moved on. I'm embarrassed by how old it is. Like, it's like old writing. And now it doesn't matter to me anymore. So like, cart before horse. Right now, the number one thing is, if you can get an agent, and you get it on the book that you can get that agent for. Right? That's how I feel. Whatever your strongest material is. Y'all, I know that
As someone without an agent, sounds good. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, also like the one that the agents currently have. I guess I'd wonder, are you ready to emotionally move on from it? Because that's what happened with my first one too. I still had agents who had it, but I was just kind of over it at that point. I was like, I can write something better. I don't know if I want to debut with this anymore, and I just kind of moved on. I went to the next book.
And you might not be ready now, but like I just wouldn't hang on to something that isn't going to be the one. If you have the one, throw yourself headlong into that opportunity, because that's like magic, especially now in this market. It's just it's challenging to get an agent. It's challenging to sell. So if you're getting really good vibes, go with it. And books aren't dead forever.
Yeah, and I think even by asking that question, like, you kind of know, like you don't ask that question if you're still stuck on the first one. So I get that.
And something I will say can happen, just I already mentioned like options in second books, but depending on who you sell to and what your relationship is, you can end up working on a book with your editor that it doesn't matter if your agent likes it. All that matters is if your editor likes it. I've done this, not that my agent hasn't liked a book, but I will work directly with my editor on something that I both want to write, but also I know will vibe with my editor. And it ultimately doesn't matter if my agent loves it, if my editor wants to buy it. And I have friends who've done this with their editors as well. So it could always be a case like you could sell this next thing, and it literally doesn't matter if the agent had previously rejected it. If the editor you sell to is like, yes, that's a mood, and they want to buy it. So, yeah. I'll throw this up. What if you disagree with an editor? What an editor has edited from your manuscript? Do both the author and the editor have to compromise? So, what I think is important here to realize, at least I can speak to TradPub. Sellpub might be different, except you're hiring the person who you edit, so you get to set the parameters of how they edit your work. Editors don't rewrite your book for you. Everything is optional. They basically, first of all, with developmental edits, you get an edit letter. They haven't made any changes to your manuscript. They just tell you what they think you should work on, and it's completely in your hands to edit the manuscript. Some editors do go through the manuscript and cross things out, sometimes move things around, write suggestions for a rewrite. My current editor actually does that, but my previous editors didn't edit that way. So I just got an edit letter. But even when they do that, that is the beauty of Microsoft Word and track changes, because you can hit that reject button, reject, or resolve a comment and be like, nah. The power is with you. Same thing with copy editing. You receive your manuscript with track changes on, and it's on you to accept or reject things. So you don't physically hit the accept or reject button in copy editing. It's actually really, really annoying. You have to individually respond to every single question, and sometimes flashbacks. I'm gonna have to copy edit soon too. It's really, but that's the thing. Ultimately, it's on the author. And the key thing is, don't be difficult to work with. You should accept most things so that you can reject the things that matter. That's how I feel. Or, like I said before, manipulate your editor into doing it the way you want it. Because, so you get a comment and then you go, I disagree. So I'm going to make changes to prove to you that my way's better. Do it that way. That's how I approach it. I'm like, we'll see. It's fine. Very rarely. That said, I sometimes, yes, you have to compromise, but sometimes there are deal breakers. And if your publisher tells you this has to change, you have to change it. But that's pretty rare. But it's still on you to change it. And so you still control the way that it's changed. It's the way that I see it. And also, they're often right. She says, having edited her ending on her last book 3 times. And honestly, I really like the final version. It was worth all the pain.
And don't they usually, if it's like big stuff like that, don't they tell you that before they buy it?
Yeah. Well, in my case, not always. And so I was glad that I had a call. Sometimes I have heard of people who sell and then find out, surprise.
That's terrifying.
Awkward. Hasn't happened to me though. I'm very happy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ahmad asked, "Could you debut with a YA contemporary and your book too as a middle grade fantasy? Is that too weird? Won't work."
It won't work with the same publisher. Because if you sell a YA contemporary, they're not gonna buy a middle grade option from you, or it won't be part of your second book contract. You could separately go on submission with the middle grade project. And in fact, that is the case with my friend Jess, JL. Her debut is a YA urban fantasy, like contemporary fantasy. Um, 2 book series sold to one publisher, and she has a middle grade coming out next year. That is a middle grade fantasy, like a contemporary fantasy. But those are like 2 career streams happening simultaneously for her. Um, but if you sell a YA contemporary to a YA publisher, you have to have something else in the canon for YA and for that publisher. Because they're only going to be interested in buying more or less another YA contemporary from you. It's all about branding and career building. Right. See, I'm so behind. There's Violet at 12:30 asking about sprinting. I did it. I did the thing.
People
Oh,
are
anyone
so
have good
productive.
brainstorming suggestions? For me, it is showering and remain showering. It's magic.
I have been known
Um,
to do my brainstorming with like all Taylor Swift songs on shuffle and just like see what comes up. Music is huge for me, and like that's a big inspiration there, and that's one thing that I do. But also, I don't know, Pinterest, go on a walk, um, read other things,
Mm,
refill the well.
yeah, just take a break. But
Yeah,
for me, it really is showers every time.
I
No,
often
it's ridiculous.
I only brainstorm like on a notebook, but then I also like to write out everything that I like in other movies or TV shows or books, whether that be like tropes or character archetypes, anything like that, and then I try to see like, well, these are things I like, so how can I put something I like into my book?
This is an interesting question. Is it good to leave cliffhangers at the end of chapters? So, Miranda, you and I are thriller writers, so we will probably use this more often. But I think it comes up in all genres. Fantasy, Lainey, do you do a lot of cliffhangers?
Uh, yeah. Not every chapter is a cliffhanger, but I would
Yeah.
say when something really major and big happens that I want people to continue reading it regardless, but one of those moments where you're like, oh, I have to see what happens next.
And I say that vibes with my advice. It can be good to leave the end of your chapters with cliffhangers, but don't overdo it. I mean, though, mind you, in certain genres, if you are legit doing like the fastest of fast-paced thrillers, if you were following the Dan Brown school of writing, that sounds like a knock. That man makes money, and they are compulsively readable. I am not a Dan Brown hater. Then
great
yes,
masterclass, by the way.
it was so good. It was I like even though I knew a lot of it, he just like he was so I loved watching it because I was inspired to like think about my own work and brainstorm new ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I watched that. Was I might have been working on Murder She Texted actually. Um, Time blurs together. What is time? Um, my personal philosophy. Um, you do want good juicy cliffhangers at key points in your thriller, and I personally think you're allowed 1 or 2 cheap cliffhangers, and those are the ones where it's like a fake out. In fact, I wrote one in here, and we'll see if my editor like calls me on it. It's a little cheap, where it's like they heard a noise or like the door opened, and it's like the next second at the beginning of the next chapter you diffuse that tension. I think you can have a couple of those, but for the most part, try to make them decently meaningful cliffhangers where it actually they turn the page and you deliver on that cliffhanger, but also mix those in with what I call emotional cliffhangers. They're not really cliffhangers, but like I love a good chapter that ends on like an emotional beat of like sitting in dread or some emotional catharsis or not emotional catharsis, which I guess is the sitting in dread thing, where you're leaving the reader and the character in like an uncomfortable emotional moment, and that's the end beat of the chapter. That's a cliffhanger too, because that can still inspire. It's not so much like, oh, what happens? It's, ooh, what are they gonna do next? I like to use those too a lot, actually.
I like romance cliffhangers too. I
Uh,
do put those in mine.
well, like he storms out of the room, and you're like, oh. So yeah, I think
I,
that cliffhangers have lots of different meanings, but I personally, I do use this tactic in my writing pretty consistently. For better, like it's a great commercial writing technique.
Yeah, I also think of, I don't know, like definitely not every chapter needs to end on a cliffhanger. I feel like sometimes that's also almost a way to like tell if someone used to write fanfic or not, is if every chapter ends on a cliffhanger, because they're trying to get people to come back and like read the next one, so they often end on cliffhangers. But
Miranda,
yeah,
you're calling me out. This is clearly where I learned this.
but because it's such a thing, and like you think Netflix does it too. Like I was recently watching Outer Banks, and like every single episode ends on this big cliffhanger that's resolved like 3 minutes later. In the next episode, they just want you to like not turn off your Netflix when you're done with an episode. Anyway, but I think like not all of them, but just like some tasteful cliffhangers. I could probably have more. I definitely have a few like cheap ones while I was just reading. Like the segment that I just read had a cheap little one where you think she's gonna find something out, and it's like no, she's not.
Sorry, I'm catching up on chat. Had to boot a few people out. I really need a moderator who isn't in the live stream with me, Lainey.
I've been doing it. I've been doing the ones you just did. I already removed.
Oh, good. Oh, I love you, Lainey. I still probably need more moderators, and so actually,
yeah, I think you're just behind. Yeah,
I
I've
am
been
behind. Well, that's good.
picking them
Thank
up.
you, Lainey. I was like, I need some more moderators, so a couple of my regulars, I might DM you and ask you if you want to be mods for my live streams, because the people who come consistently, I'm like, yeah, that'll work. Anyway, maybe one more question and then let's sprint again. And I want to do 15 minutes on this next one if that works for everyone. Because that would put us at almost an hour of sprinting total, which isn't bad. Here, I'll throw up this one. Do you guys, especially because we talked about beginnings, how do you guys know you've prepared enough and can start with the zero draft? How do you choose your starting scene?
So hard. I'm an over preparer. Like, I don't know. I just like to make sure I'm super ready, and then it's like, yeah, I know I'm ready and have enough to start when it's November 1st, for example. Like, that's how I know. But yeah, I don't know. Just jump in. You can always like, especially if it's a zero draft, just do it, and then you'll figure out what you don't know, because there will always like you can prepare all you want, but there will always be things you don't know yet, and find while you're going.
Yeah, exactly. I guess, I don't know, like, I feel like I probably do prepare a lot considering I wrote an outline and all that, but there's so much details that come when you start drafting it, especially when it comes to like world building. My worlds aren't like fully fleshed out immediately when I start doing like the first draft. They develop over like the first few drafts, and I refine them in the final drafts. But I guess like it's when you start the draft, don't like overwhelm yourself with I don't have any of this. It's not perfect yet, because it won't be perfect.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm a cheater because my first scenes, honestly, so often will just come to me. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, same. Like, you often just kind of have that opening image in your mind of like where things want to start. That's usually the first thing that I kind of get when I get inspired. Yeah, totally. I think that happens, but there's definitely like, have I done enough preparation with this character and like all of these things, and I don't know. I found that like I can prepare all I want, and then there will still be things that I just didn't know. I liked Themi's comment about 15 plus 20 plus 20. I was thinking the same thing, but we'll be over an hour.
Okay, we're about to sprint. Um, though, hold on, I have to find this comment and get it off the screen. All right, we're gonna do 15 minutes, and also a couple of you, I might surprise make mods, so you'll you'll be surprised. It'll be great. It's like mod roulette, and hopefully like you're okay with that. Anyway, it seems easier than asking, right? Right? It's fine. We're gonna sprint. All right, let's do it. I love the way it bounces onto the screen.
Oh no, it's going to start another timer. We're going again.
Sorry, I got distracted by productivity. Oh, and now my cat's crying. Hi.
I was not productive that time. I had to go downstairs, was coming back, figuring out if I was a mod or not. All of it.
Lainey?
I'm still reading through agent notes.
So exciting, though.
Mm. I'm glad she likes it.
It's always that terrifying moment, like, it's just the vulnerability of sending your stuff to whoever it is, whether it's a CP or an agent or an editor, and you're like, and when they come back, you're like shocked. You're like, what? You like it? That's so strange. Being a writer is so weird. Yeah, I'm feeling really good. So I hit another one of my editor's notes where she's like, this subplot isn't really working, and I'm like, but I like it. That's a later problem. Anyway, yeah, I'm feeling really good. Woo, everyone getting words.
Saw Alex finished her first draft.
Yay!
So exciting.
Congrats.
Amazing.
Big accomplishment.
Huge.
Yes. That is actually funny that their names happen to have fruits or flowers in common, except for Miranda
I'm sorry.
ruining a theme. I think we're probably good on sprints. I mean, I'm hoping this means that I will continue to actually do my job when we're not live sprinting, because I really should probably finish this book this weekend. Wrist slap, do your job. But we've been going for almost 2.5 hours, so I figure we can wrap up. If there's any kind of last minute things anyone wants to... Oh, for fuck...
The mods are on it.
On it. Thank you.
Yep.
See, this is why I need mods. Disgusting.
This is the downside of having a big channel.
Yeah, no, and it's just disgusting that this is like, obviously, like, it doesn't bother me in the sense that, like, when people do this, it's to hurt the other people in the chat. It's just, I hate that people do this. It's like weaponized trolling. Flames on the side of my face. Thank you, mods. So I'm sorry anyone has to be subjected to this BS. It wasn't good. It was bad. That kind of puts a damper on it. Is there anything last minute we want to just chat about that is happy? Because that was really, yes, that was horrible. I'm sorry to everyone in the chat who had to see that. And they do that single letter thing to get around block words and filters and whatnot, which really sucks. So, yeah. Yeah. I hope everyone's doing really, really well with their projects.
It seems like everyone is. I'm seeing lots of high word counts in there.
Are you Italian, Miranda?
I'm not. Not at all.
The irony is that theoretically I am. But I am 1/8 Italian. Yeah. All the English, Irish, European, and Scottish, all of those genes dominated me. And actually, I might do a couple more mods. One sec. So a couple of you might end up being added just because I'm seeing more names, and I know that y'all are regulars, and that way it kind of captures any, because not everyone's always going to be on the same stream. So just FYI, I'm going to add a couple more people.
I got a good uplifting question.
Yes.
Elena has said, what encouraging things can you say to new writers?
Yes, we love this.
I'm going to say, don't be afraid. Sorry. I didn't know if someone else was going to say
this.
I just talked too much. I want to like back her down.
I mean, I'm just going to say that, like, don't be afraid to write what you love. That's something I've learned over the past several years. that I'm no longer going to care if people don't like it, but I love it, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's don't let anyone like make you feel like what you're writing is worse than something else or less important or anything like that. And also, don't feel like it has to be that good
Yeah.
because then you'll stop. Just keep going. Just the advice like do it every day is like not great, but I will say, as much as you can, it's helpful to just keep going.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. Um, so I'll just add like write what you love for sure. Embrace the joy of it. Like, mind you, that doesn't mean it always has to be fun. That's not toxic positivity for me. Sometimes it's brutal and I hate it. But if ultimately like come back to the joy, it's also say like it's okay if you want to take breaks. I think there's a lot of rat race mentality that new writers have to look at, especially because like AuthorTube's a great community, but it also is obviously we're literally centered around the performance of writing, for better for worse. So like it's okay if you want to take breaks, um, refill your well. Um, Definitely fight perfection. It's okay to be bad, but bad is relative. And yeah, writing's amazing. Like you can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is as much as you can, like find your community with it
Yes.
too. Like that's huge. I mean I like to think that I would, but like truly I don't know if I would still be writing if I didn't find like the author tube kind of community and everyone is so encouraging and helpful and it's like I don't know, I just like that has been so helpful for me as a like new baby writer essentially. So yeah, that's my suggestion as well is like
Yeah.
find your community, your space, and like make friends that you can sprint with and stuff.
Well, here's another one because someone mentioned being a newbie and diving into writing and not having a proper outline. That's another encouraging thing I can say to new writers. There's no right or wrong process. Do whatever feels right. Experiment. Try different things. It's completely okay if you fail at something. If like you do what everyone says you have to do, or you follow advice and it doesn't work for you, like go with it. And it's also like it can take a lot of different writing and different projects to like figure out your vibe. Yeah, you know I haven't gotten over my just issue. It's bad. It's really bad. I don't honestly in drafting I don't even fight it. That is a later problem. And later is very soon at this point and I'm going to be mad at myself, but whatever.
Totally.
Miranda.
So this is my closet, and then my door is back there. So there is a knob
Okay.
on that one, and then this is just a closet. That's fine.
Well,
I
for all we
think
know,
I
you
think
only
Devasia answered that for me.
you might have, but what if you're like trapped in that room and like we don't even know that like you're
Mm-hmm.
captive and so there is no doorknob and you're not allowed to leave.
There's a doorknob.
So
It's right there.
yeah. Oh yeah, Grape Fry did catch that. It's a closet.
It is a closet.
Hold on, just catching up, making sure I'm not missing anything. Because watching me scroll chat is really entertaining. I'm aware of this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just
Oh,
keep
this is
seeing
a
some
nice
questions
comment as
pop up.
well.
Yeah.
What you love may not get you an agent or a publisher. Um, it feels like it needs to be in between. Yeah, that's actually like I definitely subscribe to that philosophy. I also I think it's or what I encourage in writers is write the thing you love that also can, if that's your goal, can sell. And so it's a matter of falling in love with the ideas that have the most market potential. That's at least something I follow strategy wise. But that also said, if you really are new and it's your first ever book, um, write whatever you want to write because it's just so hard finishing that first book. Um, and like, failure is not a bad thing. Like, I learned so much from failing on my first book and my second book. That genuinely made me a better writer. It made me a better writer, and it made me a better author. If we think of author as a separate thing, as like approaching your career and being business minded, like I hit struggles now because it doesn't stop, guys. Like you get an agent, you sell a book, you sell multiple books. There's always something bad in publishing, and I think there's always something bad in publishing, no matter what your path is. Too, it's never ending. There's always a new obstacle. There's always a new challenge. But genuinely, I think I'm better equipped to face a lot of the frustrating things that happen because I failed early on. That includes rejections, that includes like having to shelf books, realizing the deficits in my writing and the reasons I had to shelve certain projects. Like it all, it sounds hokey, but I genuinely think everything happens for a reason. And it's painful when you're going through it. And but it's so, it helps you later. It just does. And it sucks because you're like, you're saying I have to suffer. Yeah.
I mean, if you're getting like rejected and stuff, it means you're doing kind of the right thing because you're putting yourself out there and stuff. That's what I'm. Yeah. That's where I'm kind of learning, but it's all good. And I also want to say like it's totally fine to write without the goal of like being published, being traditionally published, self-published, whatever it is.
I can't relate just because of how my brain works, but I admire people who really do write strictly for the joy of writing. Just because I haven't done that since fanfic. Like ever since I switched to original fiction, but just for me personally, the goal helps keep me focused, but I know that's not the case for everyone. Yeah.
I mean, I am the same way, but I understand there are other people that aren't, and I think it's totally fine to not be. I'm not like that, but I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so singularly focused.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, every project that I work on now, I'm like, is this something that could sell?
Yeah. So well, in fairness, though, especially once you get an agent, that's the way you have to think. Mm-hmm. It does pain me. Like I see so many writers. Well, two things, just because I love. It's not really salty. It's just sad. But navel gazing. Like genuinely, when I see writers who are phenomenally successful on the first thing they've ever written, I genuinely think that damages them as a writer long term. Because you get comfortable where you are. A, but B, if you don't think that way, at least if you're very serious about being in the industry, I just see people who so hyper focus on what they love to write and don't think about the market at all and what can sell, and then they suffer such heartbreak and it hurts my soul inside. But there is a balance, like between being aggressively commercial like me and everything else. I'm just aggressively commercially minded, but no regrets. It's also what I like to read though, so yeah. Sometimes I scare my agent though, like legitimately. Like I can tell sometimes she's concerned. She's like, I'm like, no, don't worry. As I want to make a Harry Potter reference, but it's like I'm trying to like train myself out of it, which sucks. That house that's known for being really cunning, like that one. I go into that mode, and I'm like, but don't worry. I genuinely love the things that are also aggressively commercial, where I'm being aggressively strategic. Both are a thing. Mm-hmm. But in fairness, there are writers who do write things they don't love because they know it'll sell. I prefer to find the love in the things that will sell. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me sad. Like writing something that you don't love just because you think
that I can't fathom.
That just sounds miserable.
I'm not a good enough writer to do that, honestly, in the sense that like I literally wouldn't be able to write something if I didn't love the thing I was writing. But I know some people who are just hyper efficient. Like you give them an outline, like they can do IP, and they can just burp out a book, and it doesn't matter if it's not their passion. I can't relate. I wish I had that skill. If someone wanted to start an AuthorTube channel for the accountability and community, would you recommend that? Yeah, do it. I say why not.
That's literally why I started mine.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm doing these lives, because I needed to be accountable to myself. And I was like, literally like me messaging you, Miranda, will you stream with me? If someone wants to stream with me, I won't do it. And I need the accountability of doing work. I love that our community is morphed in that way. Yeah. I love all the live streams and sprinting, and I love that when I search for timers, all these timers come up on all these different channels. I love it.
Yeah. And I love another part of the community that I love is like the little pockets that pop up around like the streams that always happen on the same time every time. Like Thirsty Thursday that Laura and Kevin used to do. Like
Oh,
that
I
was so
miss
fun
it.
because it was always, I do too.
Not to
It was
shame
always like
them.
the
They'll
same
come back when they're
people.
ready.
Yeah, of course. I bet, you know, I would love them to come back. But like all those little kind of communities or like the troublemaker streams, which is like Steeg and Devesha who are in the chat, like have a group that always streams every Friday, and it's like it's such a nice little tradition. It's the same people in there all the time. Like it's great for community.
That's how I
and everyone
met
kind
you.
of, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So actually, in fact, people in the chat, I know that it can feel like really like isolating in a way. Like you hear me or other people like shouting at people in the chat and interacting. Like that's what's so great about the community. Go to other people's live streams, interact in the chat. That's how we've gotten to know each other, and I love that aspect of AuthorTube. It's definitely worth diving in, and you don't even have to make your own content to attend live streams on other channels and be in the comments. I mean, literally, if you're here, you have an account, so you know this. But yeah, I say the more the merrier. But that said, like if you're doing it for accountability and community, like no, growth is really really hard, and as long as your goal is aligned there, I think this is why we see so much navel gazing about AuthorTube as a community, because it is impossible. It's very hard to grow.
Yeah.
In space. So that's just one thing to warn you that it is saturated. It is challenging to start a new channel and have a ton of growth. So
Yeah, but it's challenging to start a new channel and have a ton of growth. I don't think it's challenging to start a new channel and then like make friends on it and stuff. Like
Yeah.
that's the part that's not that hard. You just like go to the chats and talk to everyone, and everyone is so like open and welcoming. But yeah, if you're expecting to like blow up or something, like that shouldn't be the goal. Because it's gotta, you know, right reasons. I feel like The Bachelor, but gotta be in it for the right reasons.
yeah.
And that's why I started my channel. I think if I remember correctly, like I wanted to be able to participate in Laura and Kevin's streams, in their Thirsty Thursday streams that they were doing. And I was like, let me just start a channel. Like this seems fun. Everyone seems nice. And I did, and here I am.
Yeah, every book I've finished, the only books I've ever finished, have been on my channel.
It's huge for accountability.
Yeah, at least that's kind of cool to like be able to look back on that. But yeah.
This is just too funny because I've literally thought this to myself multiple times. I was like, at least I can still use the Hunger Games in my crafting. Because
you were a career. You clearly came from a career district.
There you go. Although, gosh, being associated with that's a downer. At least dungeon dwellers from the series we don't talk about as much anymore had a little bit more nuance.
I try and lean on astrology. Like I'm not gonna say someone's the really smart one.
I'm not
I might
an
say they're a
astrology
Virgo.
person. I feel so left out when you guys do your thing, and I just don't understand anything you're talking about. I get the sign part, like fire, water, earth, air. That because I'm a fire sign, and that feels appropriate to me. I'm like this vibes. My mother was a water.
You would just say that. You'd be like, I'm a fire sign, because you are. So
yeah, I mean, there's 4 of those. You could just choose fire sign, water sign, air sign. It kind of works.
I don't have a live schedule. I basically throw these up when I know I have to do work, and I won't do work unless I force myself to do work. And it's also only when I'm actively working on a book, which will pray for me that ends soon, although not too soon, because obviously I want to keep writing and selling things. But I'm terribly inconsistent, and I apologize, is basically the answer to that. I'm the worst. Oh, this is a good question. When should you start to grow your author platform? Before, during, or after you have finished a novel?
See, I have a hard time answering this because I feel like, since I've started, like, not really started writing, but ever since I started documenting my writing, I've always had a channel. So it's hard for me to like know how to just know how to, because like been building an author platform, whether I knew it or not, when I started my channel, like 7 years ago. So yeah, I've always existed. It's always existed for me. So I mean, you guys, what about you guys?
I don't know. Once I start trying, maybe I'll let you know.
You're doing it right now,
Yeah,
Miranda.
you have a channel.
Not
That's an
on
author.
purpose, though.
I personally think, at least this has certainly worked for me, though. My cat is, stop. She's playing with a puzzle. Stop. Kitten, no.
There are a lot of there's great the
Yeah.
community on Instagram is really great, I think. There's a lot of unagented or unpublished writers that are really popular, and have great writing advice and stuff, and uh, they're building their author brand or their author platform just doing that. And they, it's kind of like, I feel like it's like baby AuthorTube over there, because they have updates about their querying and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, I enjoy this.
It's also an
Sorry.
easier lift than making a video.
Kittens think that puzzle pieces are cat toys. Sorry. No, stop. I have things to say. Hold on. Let me take care of this kitten. 1 second, please.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, she just left us.
Oh no, what do we say?
Twitter also has a writing community. I've stepped away from Twitter because Twitter just scares me now. But there's definitely ways to build a platform on both of those sites that I think are easier, faster, and less time consuming than doing something on YouTube. But yeah.
Sorry, I do have thoughts about this. You kind of said it, but cat chaos. I'm gonna have to search the floor later. She ruined the edge of the puzzle. It's a whole thing. I love cats. I think that there is something to be said for aggressively building a platform before you have finished a novel and gotten an agent and sold a book. That is one way in. Though I personally find that level of aggressive branding stresses me out. I think it puts a lot of pressure on writers, but I won't deny that some writers can achieve that. Twitter can lead to them getting a book deal, or Instagram or whatever. Though it's no guarantee, of course. And it's not the literal thing that gets you it. But meaning, I think you should do the bare minimum before you finish a novel. Just create platform. Have a Twitter if you can bear it, or don't. Honestly, or don't. Instagram, a YouTube channel.
I say have a Twitter just so that you can claim your name.
Just do that. Exactly.
And just, if you need it, you have it then.
It's only. It's fine. Exactly. Just so that exactly, you have a footing and you can low key post if you want. But for example, I didn't have anything. Actually, I switched my socials over to this pen name when I was working on my first book. So yeah, I guess that is a good time to start to think about your branding in that sense. But I didn't register my domain or anything until I had an agent. And I don't think you have to go that hard on growing your platform, honestly, until you have a book deal, to be perfectly frank. Because before you have a book deal, for the most part, no one's you're really not going to grow in the way that people traditionally think that you're going to grow. I didn't even have 1,000 Twitter subscribers before I got a book deal. And after it announced, just exponential growth on all of my platforms, including this one. That's when I started this one, so it doesn't really count. But because there's just so much that can do for you that I think you're just going to spin your wheels if you go aggressively hard at it beforehand. It's going to be frustrating. And building platform is so stressful and hard, and I kind of hate it. So I'm just going to go cry. Yeah. I hate it. Honestly, I do think it gets worse and worse. I hate how much emphasis is put on it, and it stresses us out, and it's terrible. That's how I feel. It's fine. We're fine. Okay. Let's see if we can wrap up. Yes, hold on. Devesha dropped the link to the writing Discord that she has, so check that out. I know you can't click on it if I put it on screen, but go up in the chat, find it. It's there. We can also, maybe that goes in a pinned tweet as well. Stop playing with the puzzle pieces. God, they're so cute, but destructive.
Yeah, I'm sure you can also find that link probably on like Devasha's channel in like one of her more recent streams. Like if it's a Troublemaker stream, like it will have the link. If these ones aren't working, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm in there already. I don't need the link.
I'll just throw this up. You can always change your pen name branding when you have a deal. Like, and it's totally okay if you have something now and then change it later. I happen to pick one, like, yeah, I definitely started using Alexa Dunn when I finished my first book and I did Pitch Madness. But once I had like an agent, my second agent technically, and sold a book, I probably could have easily and quietly changed my name and it would not have mattered. And I didn't have my YouTube channel yet. That said, now that I like, if you do unexpectedly grow, you are locked in. I am not changing my name. And I've had people ask like, oh, if you jump to adult, will you use another name? And I'm like, I see no reason to, because like the branding is so strong. I'd have to write really extreme adult content to use a different name. So that's me personally, because it's the double-edged sword of actually having your name take off in any capacity. Where if you change it, it can cause brand confusion, which can be a huge problem. You can legit lose readership if you create brand confusion. Yeah, I think Kate does live stream on Twitch. People are asking for Twitch live streamers.
Pretty sure. It's definitely, I think it's Twitch, not TikTok. I don't think she...
Yeah.
I feel like I would have seen her TikToks if she made them.
Yes, this is what I did, and I have no regrets. For those who want to know, this is a pen name, but Alexa's my real name. And then I literally just made a list of names from my family tree, and I picked one that had the cleanest Google result. That's it. But I liked the sound of. So
that will likely be my move as well, but
yeah, I liked the vibe of it. So
I'm keeping my name. I think I already told you guys my thoughts on that.
All right. Okay, I think we're in a good place. We had some good questions, some good discussion. I know that there were some that I skipped, but we're in almost 3 hours here. Lord help us. But hey, we did word sprints. We got work done. Yay!
Yeah.
Thank you for and then okay, but we'll end on this hot take. And then this is a great place to end. How do you guys feel about this? Like, I know, like, your dream. What do you think? You want a large advance or less money and more promotion?
Okay, well, see, I already have a full-time job, so I think this also influences what I would want for out of that. I'm fine with like having something where I'll be able to earn out easier. Yeah. So even if it's just like a little bit lower, I don't need no 6-figure deal, even though that would be nice, but something that I would rather earn royalties quicker than having something that I'm probably never likely ever going to earn out on.
Yeah,
true. Yeah, I think that that's definitely the thought. I mean, large advance and more promotion. Just kidding. But I think that logic is definitely sound. There's some, Alexa, I think you made a whole video about it, like the pitfalls of getting a giant advance. Did. So, yeah, is definitely like impacting any thought that I have here. I think it's also something like in Lindsay Puckett's most recent video that she mentioned too. The kind of large advance versus smaller advance and like not wanting that to like get too crazy, which I think like there's a lot of logic there. I think like more either way, like more promotion and more marketing is like so important.
Yeah. I mean, so the ideal is lots of money and lots of promotion. Mm-hmm. That is the dream. But the problem is like, so obviously, like, my opinion. I agree with you. I agree with Lainey in the sense that, like, practically speaking, it's definitely smarter. It's like a smarter hedge bets kind of strategy to want less money and more promotion. The trick is often less money means less promotion, and that's actually because the priority you have with the publisher can be, not always, can be attached to the size of your advance. And so it's a double-edged sword, but at the same time, exactly, you can't be as much of a disappointment if they pay less for your book. And the worst case scenario is, because we've just seen it over and over again, is when someone is paid $800,000. I pulled that out of my butt, but we've seen it. And then their book sells like nothing. And that is a flat a career ender. And then you have to ask yourself, was the money worth it? It ultimately depends, like, what's more important to you, long-term career, the money. But at the same time, if your publisher wasn't going to do anything for you, and that's how it was going to be, you want as much money as possible for your pain and suffering at a certain point where you're like, pay me. It's tough. But yeah, it's because at the same time, like, we've all seen the one where you're like, oh, we know that book got lead because they spent so much money on it. Why can't I be the one? It's so tricky, but I do say, generally speaking, it's just, at least for up and coming writers, it's healthier to think more practically about the money, because exactly, like, we've just seen it too many times where a hot debut gets paid ridiculous money. And the other thing is if the money is high enough, even if the publisher does a lot for you and you sell really well, you can still sell not well enough against your huge advance. And you can be a disappointment even if you sell 50,000 copies or however much it is, which is above average, sadly, now for books. And it's like, it's terrifying. It's terrifying. I scare people. But yeah, I'll take whatever magical calculus means a stable career, but not feeling horrifically underpaid for your work is the thing. What do you count as a large advance? I mean, honestly, in this market, especially relative to what the average book sells, even so I don't consider 50,000 a huge advance, but most people will never earn out a $50,000 advance. But when we get into truly huge territory where you look at that deal and you know the publisher's going to take a loss on it, it's most deals that are 500K and up, and anything that is approaching $1 million, that author's screwed, honestly, except in some rare cases. They're screwed, because even with a huge push nowadays, almost no YA books sell enough to make that much money back. They just don't. Even the things that you see as bestsellers just don't make that much money. And the ones that do, the advances weren't that high, and they're rolling in sweet, sweet royalties, and we could only hope to do that well. The dream. Yeah. Yeah, you want to hear something depressing? And I know this is just like a first world problem. That's nothing in Los Angeles, and that is incredibly depressing.
It wouldn't even get you a house.
It wouldn't even get you a house, but also that $800,000 advance would be paid in installments over a series of years. 15% would go to your agent and 40% would go to taxes. In LA, that's nothing. That said, let's say I did get that, which I won't. It could be quit your job money, but it would only be quit your job money if I stayed here for a couple of years with smart budgeting. And that's the thing, it would run out in a couple of years. Like, it's not a lot of money, but it's not enough money. Womp, womp, womp.
And that's
could
why
always
you
move
write
to
what
Iowa.
you love. That's why.
I'll be your
The
neighbor.
process.
Yeah, this happens all the time. I can name several $900,000 books that you've never heard of. Multiple, actually. Like, that is why it's so scary. Be wary of huge advances. I'd say it's usually like 50-50 success story wise. A good 50% of the time, those books fall flat in their face. It's a true gamble. Well, and this is the thing. The sad thing is that author will never get that much for a book again. That author might not get published again. And that's what you have to consider. If you want a long-term traditional publishing career, there's nothing worse than being a massive financial failure to a publisher. It's upsetting. Anyway. But still, wouldn't you love that money?
I mean, we have.
Yeah.
Obviously.
All right, let's end this stream dreaming of money.
Mm-hmm.
Lots and lots of money. Lots and lots of money. All right, that's like 3 hours. Thank you so much, everyone. I was really chaotic today. Thank you for putting up with me. I guess yeah. You can only imagine what I edit out of my videos. Everyone's like, you're so long-winded. I'm like, look at this. there's chaos on the cutting room floor. Yeah. Thank you for joining me. You guys are great. You put up with me on a regular basis, and I appreciate that about you, especially Lainey, who deals with the worst of me. I'm jealous of her apartment. Everyone go watch her vlog. She gives like a little tour, and I can't wait till all the boxes are like unpacked and
I
like
know.
the vibes. Oh, I love your little spot here. It's amazing.
I'm already planning how I'm decorating for Christmas. I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna put the tree right up against the window so everybody can be jealous.
I want a real home instead of a messy apartment that looks deceptively nice, but this is not. Oh, I'm fine. We're fine. You don't want to know what my rent is. It's upsetting. Okay. Um, Miranda knows.
Can guess.
Los Angeles. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful Saturday. Have a good rest of your weekend. I wish everyone all the productivity. Please, everyone put good juju into the universe that I finished this stupid revision. I have so much work to do, and I want to send this to my editor. So that's what I'm putting into the universe. So bye, everyone.